279,000 children still in London. Whilst I'm sure they're not all here, quite a number are. Down here on the platforms of the famous Piccadilly Tube in the heart of London's West End. It's one of the saddest results of the war that women, children and men have to be here at all. Many are bombed out of their homes, all look tired, but they feel safe here, a good 100 feet below ground, and their spirit and fortitude are simply grand.
Here they come. First Her Majesty the Queen, it comes into view. Then the King in the uniform of an Admiral of the Fleet. The two princesses standing on the balcony. Listen to the crowd.
Sing, 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 sing. Everybody start to sing. Ooh, wow, now you're singing with a swing. Sing, 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 sing. Everybody start to sing. Ooh, wow, now you're singing with a swing. When the music goes around.
A very great crowd is collected already. Thousands upon thousands of people gathered to share this historic day with the King and Queen. Is one dense mass of people in the gayest colours, red, white and blue rosettes, red, white and blue hats, streamers, flags.
Listen to the trumpet swing. Blow, 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 blow. Listen to the trombones go.
This is the BBC Home Service.
Come on, foaming at the mouth. Wave your flags.
Tell the band to strike up.
Which song, boss?
Our victory song, dedicated to the man who's won the war. Now start the procession. We're glad we walk behind the man who smoked the big cigar. We follow the man whose master plan has carried us through the war. One sniff of the old Havana, we'd follow him right to Fujiyama. We're glad we walk behind the man who smoked the big cigar.
Japan, with all her treachery and greed, remains unsubdued. The injuries she has inflicted upon Great Britain, the United States, and other countries, and her detestable cruelties call for justice and retribution. We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing. Today and tomorrow, Wednesday, and Victory in Europe's Day.
I went up there to see the VA Day.
Yeah, did the King and Queen appear on
Thousands
the
of people
balcony,
dancing and singing. They're wonderful. Yeah. Outside. I didn't see the King and Queen, of course, but there's too many people. But
it was a lovely day, that was. That was really nice, that was. Oh, really knees up, that was. That was real knees up, that was. I mean, there were streamers all over the place and we all had hats on at Woolworths, you know.
At this moment, how wonderful Mr. Churchill has come out onto the Ministry of Health balcony.
This is your victory. Victory of the cause of freedom is every day. In all our long history, we have never seen a greater day than this.
They did come out on the balcony with Churchill. Tremendous roar went up, colossal roars. Seemed to last a long time.
And now listen, the band is playing Land of Hope and Glory, and the crowd is singing. And this suddenly has become a very moving moment, for Mr. Churchill, too, is singing, and he is conducting the singing of this song. Will you listen, please?
The great thing was not to recognise, so we were all dressed down, and everybody was in uniform. Anybody who wasn't in uniform looked out of place. I wasn't allowed to join the army because I was too young, and services, I should say. And so I was rather sort of kept at the back.
6 long years, and all-embracing jubilation rings out in the victory peal from St. Paul.
As I say, everything was so short, you know. Everything was loud and black and gloomy. That's why, of course, this V-Day was sort of wonderful, sort of, sunburst of glory.
I went with a group of other young people up to Trafalgar Square on the train, Trafalgar Square, to see the celebrations then, which were very spectacular. My memory mostly is about how many people there were and the pushing and shoving and how you couldn't get to see all the things you would have liked to have seen and how packed Trafalgar Square was. But it was an exciting time.
With the utmost resolve and with all our resources. But at this hour, when the dreadful shadow of war has passed far from our hearths and homes in these islands, we may at last make one pause for Thanksgiving. Birds of a feather and the crowds will soon roll by. Queen and I know the ordeals which you have endured throughout the Commonwealth and Empire. We are proud to have shared some of them with you, and we know also that we shall all face the future together with stern resolve and prove that our reserves, willpower and vitality are inexhaustible. There is great comfort in the thought that the years of darkness and danger in which the children of our country have grown up are over.
All seemed to happen just like building the shelters. I can't remember anybody organising it, but it was just going to be a party. And everybody brought out trestle tables or any old tables that they had. All the women baked. Everybody brought what they could, lemonade or, there was very little alcohol, if any. Alcohol was, I think, quite difficult to get hold of, so possibly there was, and I might not have possibly known about it. But otherwise it was just great big tables full of food and balloons and paper hats, anything you could get, and things that people made, their own decorations, and we just had a marvellous time. And then somebody dragged a piano out and played, because they did, nearly everybody, parlours had pianos then and people could play, and everybody danced, and it was glorious, it was gorgeous.
And the world gets back some horse sense. What a day for celebration that will be. When somebody shouts the fight's up and it's time to put the lights up, then the first thing to be lit up will be me. I'm going to get lit up when the lights go up in London.
Well, I remember being at home, not having to go. I'd left school and I was then at business college at Mountains, and as far as I remember, everybody was at home and they got in the streets and they were sort of shouting and cheering and waving flags about, and some of them were very sad. They'd lost husbands and boyfriends and all the rest of it. But personally, I think as a 17-year-old, I was just happy the war was over and we could do as we pleased, more or less. Pretty short of food, but we looked forward to having good meals and going to the shop and buying things, clothes and everything, which we couldn't buy then. Everything was on coupons.
Me as a 10, 11, 12-year-old asking my grandfather about various things to do with VE Day. So his plan was that they would have a party for the locals in a barn, ordinary barn. He did describe it as a very happy event, although he said, I caught myself looking up several times and catching my wife's eye, my grandmother, who was Penelope, he used to call Nellop. He said, I remember looking up at Nellop, and she was definitely muted, she was quiet. And this reflected the fact that their eldest son, my Uncle David, was still out in Malaya. And of course, this is true of many, many families on VE Day. They had the joy of celebrating, mixed with a lot of, in some cases, anxiety, and of course a lot of overt sadness. And he writes here that of the people who came, many were able to walk to their houses within minutes. One couple who had come had walked 2.5 miles to get to us from a village, small village outside the town, and they walked the 2.5 miles back later that afternoon. And instead of getting back to enjoy their evening, they found a telegram waiting for them. Can you imagine that? Mr. and Mrs. Peters found a telegram informing them that their son, Malcolm, had been killed in an air crash the previous week, and that telegram reached them on that very day, and they didn't find out until that evening.
As far as we were concerned, that was a new life. We had quite a few sort of churches and church-related things round the old marketplace because the City Hall wasn't built then. And yes, we had a lot of celebrations, and we had a St. Peter Mancroft and all those rang all their bells, what they still had. Because some of the churches, the bells had been taken away and I suppose used in some way or other. Used the metal, I think. There was lots of boys that we knew who'd, the end part of the war had been called up, and because they were away. They were in the Air Force and the Army and all sorts, and the Navy. Because although the war ended, and you thought, good, that's the end of rationing, it wasn't. No. There was still a shortage of food, shortage of sweet things, shortage of, or difficult for you to do lots of things. You went down to the coast. You couldn't get down onto the beach because there was all the wire netting and all the things to stop invasions and whatnot. So you had to make the best of it. And being youngsters, we got on our bikes and went down to sea poling and back and that on our bikes. But we had to sit on the other side of the dunes, on the land side, because there was, I suppose the beaches were still mined.
I say to my missus, I say, we ought to win wars more often, because I ain't seen no salad cream since 1940. But bugger me, he had bottles of the stuff on the table.
Our gratitude to all our splendid allies goes forth from all our hearts in this island and throughout the British Empire.
For this victory, we join in offering our thanks to the Providence which has guided and sustained us through the dark days of adversity. Our rejoicing is sobered and subdued by a supreme consciousness of the terrible price we have paid to rid the world of Hitler and his evil band.
VE Day, my mother and I went down into the city centre and with the crowds
and my mother sort of wanted to show me exactly what it was all about, and everybody was very merry and cheerful. Yeah, yes, I remember that. That was on VE Day.
The north, right from the east coast over to Liverpool in the northwest, was an absolute industrial powerhouse during the war. All the major centres had been brutally battered by the Luftwaffe, and every community, every street had a long list of sons, husbands and loved ones who were never coming home, alongside all those civilians who had perished. They partied hard when VE Day came. There was a massive emotional outpouring, especially from the factories who organised parties and celebrations. This was tinged with anxiety about what lay ahead in the post-war economy, but for now they were happy to eat, drink and celebrate.
I was at RAF Bosworth in Leicestershire. We were all excited to know it was all over, and it was arranged by somebody, I suppose it was a senior official, that we would all enjoy ourselves in De Montfort Hall in Leicester. And we did celebrate, you know, plenty of dancing, plenty of drink, and we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves.
I would ask you all to remember those of our comrades who fell in the struggle. They gave their lives that others might have freedom, and no man can do more than that.
It took a couple of days to really sink in, because his senses were still tense. You know, all you could hear were church bells, which was marvellous. And when the news came through, we looked at these things, and my team, I had 8 of them, we said, well, there's only one place, I think, John, and that's the nearest pub. So we went down to the nearest pub, celebrated all the work we'd done in the gun stores, and thanks to the future. And it was such a relief.
Folks put much reliance on politics and science. There's only one hero for me. It's praise we should be roaring, the man who thought of pouring the first boiling water onto tea. I like a nice cup of tea in the morning, for to start the day, you see. And at 11:30, well, my idea of heaven is a nice cup of tea.
Cardiff during the Second World War was a strategic centre, primarily for coal and steel, and the Germans targeted it with heavy bombing raids right up to 1944. VE Day came and it was a huge relief. People took to the streets all over. There was a massive celebration in Cardiff, where 355 civilians had died at the height of the raids. The Welsh, of course, are famed for their sense of community, and this was greatly evident as people came together in the streets and made merry with the little that they had. There are tales of bakers working 24 hours to satisfy the demand for sandwich loaves, with something of a blind eye being turned to rationing that day at least.
Let the breakfast in. Well, my idea of scene is a 4th or a 5th cup of tea. I like a nice cup of tea with me dinner, and a nice cup of tea with me tea. And when it's time for bed, there's a lot to be said for a nice cup.
We kept faith and unity with our great allies. That faith, that unity, have carried us to victory through danger, which at times seemed overwhelming. So let us resolve to bring to the tasks which lie ahead the same high confidence in our mission
same time, it is of paramount importance that the women and girls of our country be given training so that they may do their share in the war emergency. How this training is given and who does it is of great interest to us all.
Fix your eyes on the horizons. Swing your ears about, size up the day and date. Look in on prayer and thanksgiving, song and laughter. Dated planet Earth, May 8, 1945. You, mother, in St. Louis on the Mississippi, whose firstborn is a visitor in Magdeburg on the Elbe.
Thank God I'll get my boy back instead of a telegram.
You patient wife of Bridgeport, whose husband sat it out inside a Nazi prison.
Now we'll be home for longer than a furlough. Now we can see our daughter for the first time. She's 2 years old. Strange to think they've never met.
In farmhouse of steppe and upland, in mining villages with regimented chimneys, in apartments of executives, where decor is impeccable and genuine utrillos hang, in tenements where L trains go by every 7 minutes with a rack and roar. It's top of the evening. Hip, hip, hooray. How about another drink, Alf? And a very good time's being had by all. Meanwhile, the crowds gather. Crowds in Times Square, Piccadilly, Nevsky Prospect. Crowds in the Loop, crowds on the Boulevard. Gaiety and neon, laughter and the blare of horns. Headlines cheerful as a Christmas poster. Noise and glitter. This is it, kid. This is the day. This is what we've been waiting for.
The Army, Mr. Jones. No private rooms or telephones. You had your breakfast in bed before, but you won't have it there anymore. This is the Army, Mr. Green. We like the barracks nice and clean. You had a housemaid to clean your floor, but she won't help you out anymore. Do what the buglers command. They're in the Army and not in a band. This is the Army, Mr. Brown.
Put this tremendous machine of ours, which has made this victory possible, to work for peace, we can look forward to the greatest age in the history of mankind. That's what we propose to do.
The Army, Mr. Jones. No private rooms or telephone. You had your breakfast in bed before, but you won't have it there anymore. This is the Army, Mr. Green. We like the barracks nice and clean. You had a housemaid to clean your floor, but she won't help you out anymore.
Meanwhile, Hitler's nose is rubbed good and hard in the mud of humiliation. Germany bans all Heil Hitler greetings, all Nazi salutes. And the number of German prisoners in American-British hands runs into so many millions, it may be more than the combined total of all American and British troops on all European battlefronts. If any army has ever suffered greater humiliation, I'm unable to recall it. Peace in Europe. There'll be hundreds of headlines now, all rich in human interest. Things have come to pass which few living men thought probable. General de Gaulle with a price on his head. Shoot this man on sight, said the French quislings. Shoot this man on sight, said the Nazis. One man standing alone, calling to his countrymen to realize France had only lost the battle. Who would have said on that dark day when Hitler danced at Compiègne that de Gaulle would stand today in Notre Dame offering thanksgiving for the victory? That this one man standing alone would be the leader of his people in the great hour of victory. And the men who put a price on his head, fugitives, all prisoners.
Victory echoes across a thankful Europe as Parisians turn out in holiday mood and General de Gaulle pays tribute to the undying spirit of liberty.
Les amants de Paris couchent sur ma chanson. À Paris, les amants s'aiment à leur façon. Les refrains que je leur dis, c'est plus beau que les beaux jours. Ça fait des tas de printemps et le printemps fait l'amour. Mon couplet s'est perdu sur les bords d'un jardin. On me l'a jamais rendu et pourtant je sais bien que les amants de Paris m'ont volé mes chansons. À Paris, les amants ont de drôles de façons. Les amants de Paris se font à Robinson.
That's when I saw the biggest parade in my life on the shoulders of my father.
Tell us about that. This was a profound moment for you.
Well, they closed off the Champs-Élysées. If you ever been to Paris, that's the biggest main street in the world that I know of. That they had 42 soldiers lined up coming down, abreast, coming down the Champs-Élysées. And I'm standing on my father's shoulder watching the parade. And we're all yelling. You go to Paris, which happens to be my birthday. I'm driving my car through Paris, and I see all these flags. I said, how do they know I was coming? And it happened to be celebration for the liberation of Paris.
There is no Frenchman born who does not feel at this moment the deepest emotion, be he in France, in America, or the farthest shore of this global war. Out of the suffering France has borne, there rises a people rededicated to liberté, égalité, fraternité. May I please add one word to my countrymen. Mes chers amis, je n'ai que le temps de vous crier merci et de vous dire que notre pensée, à nous si loin des combats, va aujourd'hui d'abord vers nos prisonniers. Puissent-ils nous être bientôt rendus et nous trouver tous unis et résolus à leur prouver que leur long martyre n'a pas été souffert en vain.
Gabriel Heater and his up-to-the-minute news of the world presented by Four Hands Toothpaste. Good evening, everyone. The last communique of World War II is in. Russia proclaims tomorrow as VE Day. The Russian people were told tonight for the first time of Germany's unconditional surrender. Moscow radio reports all terms laid down by General Eisenhower were ratified tonight in Berlin. Field Marshal Keitel and Admiral Friedborg signing for Germany in the presence of Lieutenant General Karl Spatz, Air Chief Marshal Sarafa Tedder, Field Marshal Zhukov, and General de Tassigny. There was some anxiety in many quarters today when 10 hours went by without any proclamation in Moscow. Russia evidently waited for the official hour, 1 minute past 6 tonight, Eastern Wartime. And Russia evidently waited for the ratification in Berlin, for the crowning hour of German humiliation unconditional surrender in the capital where the war was planned. And they evidently waited for the final death rattle in Dresden and Prague, where the fighting came to an end but a few hours ago and surrender became official 1 hour ago. And now the guns are quiet everywhere in Europe, and the lights are on, and the hearts of men and women are lifted in thanksgiving as millions say tonight, "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord." Peace in Europe. Peace in Europe.
Tomorrow we shall pay a particular tribute to our heroic Russian comrades whose prowess in the field has been one of the grand contributions to the general victory.
News generally travels by wireless, printing press, and radio, and it moves lightning fast, and its impact is powerful and violent. But an older medium carried today's news. There was no impact of violence. It was a church bell, and the news it brought reached into human hearts. I've heard people say we've always had war and we shall always have more war, and there just isn't anything we can do about it. And today one saw the long lines of men and women filing into houses of worship for prayer and thanksgiving. And one realized again, nothing will ever lift human hearts as high as a bell tolling its message in one word, peace. One had to be there to see it all and feel it. One had to be near the mother who fell to her knees and raised the careworn face to God, and loud enough for all who were near to hear every word. Heard her say, "Oh God, I've lost one boy. Bring my second back to me. Oh God, I need him so."
Thank you, Gabriel Heater. Gabriel Heater with up-to-the-minute news of the world was presented this evening by Four Hands Toothpaste.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the days we've been looking forward to for so long. This is one of the days for which men left their wives and children, their jobs and their professions, to put on uniforms and give their days and their lives to end tyranny and aggression, we hope forever.
But this is just one of the days. There's another day coming, and may it be soon, when we can celebrate complete victory. But to leave our jobs now and quit when the task is only half finished would be false to the wives and children our fighting men left behind.
Perhaps you know that radio programs like this one are recorded and sent to our fighting forces everywhere overseas for their entertainment and to bring them a smile or two from home. This is our job, the thing we know best how to do.
So let's all keep going, keep working, and keep faith with the ones who are still doing battle for the things we believe in.
Good night.
Good night, all.
My sons where'er they be, and bring them safely home.
This is the National Broadcasting Company.
The whole world must be cleansed of the evil. The power of our people to defend themselves against all enemies will be proved in the Pacific War as it has been proved in Europe. For the triumph of spirit
and of arms which we have won, and for its promise to the peoples everywhere who join us in the love of freedom, it is fitting that we, as a nation, give thanks to Almighty God, who has strengthened us and given us the victory. Now, therefore, I, Harry S. Truman, President of the United States of America, do hereby appoint Sunday, May 13th, 1945, to be a day of prayer. I call upon the people of the United States, whatever their faith, to unite in offering joyful thanks to God for the victory we have won, and to pray that He will support us to the end of our present struggle and guide us into the ways of peace. I also call upon my countrymen to dedicate this day of prayer to the memory of those who have given their lives to make possible our victory. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States of America to be affixed.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard the President of the United States. Now, our national anthem.
First day of the false report of the war's end, we were, I think, at Linz, Austria. And I remember a wild celebration going on. The war is over. And there were many of the striped uniform concentration camp people on the streets. And I was called in to drive a half-track for Major Tuthill, two radio operators, Major Tuthill and I, to follow a Russian staff car. And we took off like mad, following the Russians. And I remember driving up the road to the camp. There were the ex-prisoners going up and down the road.
There are no words to describe this sense of freedom and this jubilation that took place during this liberation time. And of course now we were seeing army uniforms and the Allied soldiers were headquartered wherever they were, and the soldiers were walking the streets, and my girlfriend and I had a little tiny pad each, because there was still not stuff in the stores. They were still basically shuttered. And the two words of English, actually I knew three by the time I came to this country, but the first two words I learned were signature, please. And we invented this activity. We would go to a soldier and hand him his pen and a little stubby pencil and ask for a signature. And I still have those too someplace. A little pad of signatures, even some X's where they couldn't obviously write. And again, mostly British and Canadians. And I remember that the other one was candy and please. So we would give them, we'd ask for their signature, and then we would ask for candy, please. Because of course they had thrown this stuff from the trucks as they came through, the tanks and so on. And there was this great loving and rejoicing and great love for the Americans and British. And
we were liberated the last day of the war. That was D-Day, May 8, 1945. That was the day of our liberation.
At the end of it, we usually sing a song which says, God, give us a chance to get to freedom, get back to Poland, to our country. It gave us spirit. It gave us a reason to live again.
An American got up and he says, you are all free. We are Americans, you're all free, you don't have to be afraid of them. He worked here, the gun here, nice mezuzah, you know, like that. And all of a sudden they pulled out about 4 or 5 Yiddish, Jewish flags. And they stand up and he says, who is a Jew? Because we had a few French people over there too, in another national, most of them Jews. He says, you stay here and we're gonna play the Jewish hymn.
They put him in trucks and jeeps, and they took him to hospitals, or they made tents, and they put him in, they gave him water, they gave him packets from the Red Cross.
They let us know that the soldiers are coming. And we went out to greet the American soldiers. And we dropped to their feet and we kissed their boots. Some of them that couldn't walk, they were just crawling. They picked up and carried them into the camps.
I would ask you all to remember those of our comrades who fell in the struggle. They gave their lives that others might have freedom, and no man can do more than that.
The German war is therefore at an end. After years of intense preparation, Germany hurled herself on Poland at the beginning of September 1939. And in pursuance of our guarantee to Poland, and in common with the French Republic, Great Britain, the British Empire, and Commonwealth of Nations declared war upon this foul aggression. Finally, almost the whole world was combined against the evildoers, who are now prostrate before us. But let us not forget for a moment the toils and efforts that lie ahead. We must now devote all our strength and resources to the completion of our task, both at home and abroad. Advance Britannia. Long live the cause of freedom. God save the King.
There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after. Tomorrow, when the world is free.
And then let us salute in proud gratitude of the great host of the living who have brought us to victory. I cannot praise them to the measure of each one's service. For in a total war, the efforts of all rise to the same noble height, and all are devoted to the common purpose. Armed or unarmed, men and women, you have fought, striven, and endured to your utmost. None knows that better than I do. And as your king,
I thank with a full heart those who bore arms so valiantly on land and sea or in the air, and all civilians who, shouldering their many burdens, have carried them unflinchingly without complaint.
We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line. Have you any dirty washing, mother dear? We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, 'cause the washing day is here. Whether the weather may be wet or fine, we'll just rub along without a care. We're gonna hang out the washing on the Siegfried line, if that Siegfried line's still there.